What you want is not what you think. When it comes to relationships, a lot of us are looking for intimacy. We're looking for that close connection with another person. And we're looking for a soft place to land. We're looking for someone who will accept us as we are, love us no matter what. But what we really want is to grow, is to become more conscious. If we had a situation where our partner was just happy with us just the way we are all the time, nobody's running their patterns, everything's just hunky-dory, that would feel good for a very short period of time. Eventually, you have to get to the grittiness of a sacred relationship. Eventually, your patterns are going to show up. They're going to step on stage because we're subconsciously drawn to people who in some way reflect our patterns, or we have complementary patterns. And we don't see that right away. In fact, we're usually seeing just the best in the other person. We have our blind spot. We're just so enamored of that person that we just go, yes, this is it. This is the person. And they might very well be, but then be prepared for when things get rough, for when those patterns start to run, because that's when the sacred relationship really kicks in. Sacred relationship is about wanting to be present for everything, for the good, the bad, the ugly, the whole shebang. And in a sacred relationship, we've chosen a partner who's the same way. That doesn't mean you'll always be in the same place. One of you might be ready to tackle something and the other person needs to retreat. They may process information differently. They may need to sit with their emotions or their thoughts for a while, maybe even for days. And if you're the go-getter, says, okay, we got a problem, let's get this solved now, your partner might be like, whoa, I'm overwhelmed, I'm not ready to do that. So what happens in a situation like that? That's when you get what you really want. And what you really want is an opportunity to grow. Now, what part of you wants that? At soul level, at the level of the being that came into this world to explore and learn. We want to wake up. We want to become more conscious. Because we all know if you indulge yourself for too long in anything, you're going to get bored. It's not going to be fun. You're going to feel like you need some kind of a stretch. And in a sacred relationship, you're going to get that because you've both committed to being present no matter what. But sometimes you need to be present in the absence of the other person. And that's when we do one of two things. We either say, can you stop doing that so I don't have to feel this? Or we go, okay, when that person's not able to meet me where I am, can I sit with what that brings up for me? Can I sit with those childhood abandonment patterns? Can I sit with my discomfort? Can I sit with my rage? Can I sit with my grief, my fear? That's the opportunity to sit with what's coming up for you. And if you can do that, then you're not wasting time waiting for the other person to catch up. Because if you're just waiting around for them to finish sitting with their stuff, you haven't done any work while they might have been sitting there really processing quite a bit. Don't lose those opportunities. This is about surrender. It's about acceptance. It's about recognizing that the other person is in a different space. And that doesn't mean there's no communication. There may be moments where you can approach them and say, hey, can we talk about this? They might be ready. Even if it's just a brief conversation to say, I've noticed this. Is this something we can be aware of and work on? Even if we can't at the moment, is this something we can both ponder? Sometimes they'll say, I'm not ready to talk. And again, you might not be getting what you think you want. You want that instant connection, but you're getting what at soul level you really want, an opportunity to grow. It's the limited ego consciousness that goes, I'm not getting what I want. We can get pretty tantrumy about that. We can get angry. We can say, but you owe me. You agreed to this. But because your partner is human, at that moment, whatever's going on with them, they may not be ready to offer you what you think you want, what the ego wants. But wherever they're at in that moment, you're actually getting what your higher self, your soul consciousness needs in order to grow. Because in that space between desire and the achievement of that desire, the feeling of, oh yeah, I got what I wanted, there's that opportunity to sit with whatever is coming up in that space. That's probably one of the most uncomfortable things about a deep relationship, having to look at your own stuff. And that is the difference, one of the differences between a sacred relationship and a more mundane one. In a mundane relationship, we often go into, but you owe me, but you said you would do this, you said you would do that. Instead of going, if my partner can't be that way right now, what does that give me the opportunity to do? When I'm not getting what I think I should get so I can feel a certain way, what does that bring up in that space? What is that helping me to achieve? So much growth can happen in those uncomfortable moments where our patterns aren't getting what they desire. And that's something to remember too. Patterns often come from very early in life. And we are drawn to the people who will trigger those patterns so we can work on them. In a mundane relationship, for example, you might have a pattern. Say you grew up with a father or a mother who was absent, maybe emotionally not present, or they traveled a lot, and there was always that sense of disconnect. Your pattern may very well be drawn to somebody who's not emotionally present. And your reaction to that might be to throw more energy at them, because the pattern says, if I can just get this person to give me what I didn't get as a child, I will be healed. And it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. So in a mundane relationship, you're probably going to put a lot of energy toward that person and feel even more bereft, feel like you're lacking even more energy if nothing comes back your way. And in a mundane relationship, you've usually chosen somebody that fits the pattern perfectly, but hasn't chosen to consciously do this work, to say, oh, yes, I'm disconnected. Why am I disconnected? What do I need to work on? In a sacred relationship, you've both agreed in your own way to do this work, but your paces may be different. When you're ready to reconnect, it may not sync up at exactly the same time. And that's where patience comes in. That's where being willing to sit with your stuff comes in. So this is the difference between a reaction of, hey, you said you'd do this and you didn't do it. I want this and I'm not getting it, to creating space between stimulus and response. So when you get the first stimulus of, there's a disconnect, something here isn't working, this person's having a reaction or having a bad day, what have you, that maybe you didn't count on, maybe it shakes up your world. Before you react, before you try to fix it, be willing to sit with the discomfort that arises. Why am I feeling uncomfortable because of where my partner is at in this moment? What's that bringing up for me? What is my core childhood pattern that's being triggered? Can I sit with that? Can I feel in my body where that discomfort sits? Can I breathe into that area of my body, go into that discomfort even more? It's amazing the realizations that can arise. I'll give you an example. Many years ago, I went to a silent yoga retreat. And the day before I went, I badly sprained my ankle. So I get to this retreat and I'm there for several days. Everybody's in silence. And on the last day, I'm sitting in meditation, my eyes cast down on the floor. And everybody has left the building. They've all gone to the beautiful yoga studio that's sitting with a view of the lake, having the last yoga class, none of which I could really attend because of my ankle. So I'm looking down at the floor. Everybody has left the building. And then I see the feet of the instructor go by, the last person to leave to go teach that class. Now, if it hadn't been a silent retreat, I probably would have said, have a nice class, because that's what we do. We cover up our real feelings because we want to be nice. And that's our facade. But instead, because I couldn't say anything, this wave of resentment came out of me. You all get to do yoga and I don't. So I got curious. Wow, what a strong reaction to a pretty innocuous situation. Everybody just went off to the class. I couldn't join them. So I got curious, why such a strong reaction? I sat with that resentment. And what's interesting, and this gets into some quantum physics, that the mere act of observation creates a shift, creates a material change. By my just observing that resentment, where do I feel this in my body? What is that attached to? The resentment dropped away and I got back a memory, being 2 years old and having to leave my family and go live next door because I had German measles and my mother was pregnant with my younger brother. So all I could do was wave at them through the picture window of the next door neighbors, but I couldn't be with my family for a while. Now, what 2-year-old actually understands that? So that 2-year-old pattern was coming up to say, I've been abandoned. Everybody's left me, and I'm in this other building alone. I'm without the people I'm connected to. That gave me a wonderful opportunity to let up that 2-year-old, let her come all the way up and look out of my eyes, look at the situation and see, these people haven't abandoned me. It's just circumstance. I have a sprained ankle. I can't join them. My parents didn't abandon me. That was just circumstance. I simply couldn't be with them because if my mother got German measles, my brother could have been born with deformities. In that moment, that 2-year-old pattern came to consciousness. Oh, okay. There's some things that happen that aren't deliberately hurtful. They're just circumstance. I would have missed that opportunity if I could have spoken and said, have a nice class. I would have immediately covered up any feelings that I thought were bad feelings, that were unacceptable feelings. So when you're in a situation where your pattern is looking for that loving acceptance, that connection, and it isn't there for whatever reason, you get a chance to work with the part of you that struggles with that. You get a chance to turn inward and say, I'm here for you. What's going on? What is this attached to? What do you need? Because ultimately, the parts of you that have been there since early childhood that are struggling need you to help them heal. Because if you're not working with them as their higher self, their future self, saying, hey, you've survived this, I'm here for you, I will support you, what do you need? You don't do that work, it won't matter how much love somebody else showers upon you, you won't be able to let it all the way in. Because that little part of you feels abandoned, feels unloved, that's its modus operandi, it won't believe the love that comes its way. So in those gaps, when you're not feeling connected to your partner, whether it's your stuff coming up or theirs, or a combination of the two, you have an opportunity to get what you really want, healing. And you've got a chance to sit in that space and support the part of you that's struggling. And the more you do that, the more of you will be present to be more connected to your partner. So when they are ready to communicate, when they are ready to connect, more of you is now at the table, and the connection you get is deeper than it was before. That's when you're getting what you really want. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you again soon.